Welcome to Framed, a podcast where we explore how stories shape power and how power shapes the stories we accept as truth. I'm your host, Dr. Julie Hunt, and I'll be guiding you through how framing influences our understanding of history, politics, and culture. In this first season, we'll move through pivotal moments in modern American history. Moments like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the March on Washington, Selma, the Gulf of Tonkin, and Watergate. Each was not just a historical event, it was also a contest of frames. But before we dive into those, we need to start with the foundation. What is framing? And why did sociologist Erving Goffman believe it was the key to understanding how we interpret the world? First, let's look at Goffman's intellectual context. Erving Goffman was one of the most influential sociologists of the 20th century. His earlier works, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life and Asylums, explored how people perform social roles and navigate institutions. Frames are not optional add-ons, they are the invisible scaffolding of meaning. Goffman distinguishes between primary frameworks. One is natural frameworks, when events are understood as physical happenings like storms, accidents, or biological processes. Two, social frameworks, when human intention and agency are added. Someone caused the accident, someone made the decision. King is when we reinterpret an activity through a new lens. A fight is serious. A play fight is keyed as performance. A stage fight in a movie is keyed again. Then there are fabrications, deliberate manipulations of frames to deceive others. A con artist, a stage political photo op, or even fake news are fabrications that exploit our reliance on frames. Let's return to the protest example. One frame emphasizes broken windows and police clashes. Another emphasizes singing, children, and peaceful crowds. Same event, two stories. Two emotional responses. But protests are just the beginning. In a courtroom, the prosecution and defense compete to frame the same evidence, one as proof of guilt, the other as reasonable doubt. In advertising, a soft drink isn't sugary water, it's framed as happiness or togetherness. In medicine, a diagnosis can be framed as a battle against illness or a journey of healing, each shaping patient outlook. In war reporting, the same operation can be a liberation, an invasion, or a peacekeeping mission, depending on who holds the frame. Goffman showed us that frames operate everywhere. But later scholars pushed this into media and politics. Robert Entman defined framing as the process of selecting some aspects of reality and making them more salient. What journalists emphasize and what they leave out becomes public reality. Gay Tuchman described the news net that catches some stories and let others slip through. Frames aren't just about words, they shape which events are even seen as newsworthy. Frames gain power when repeated, illustrated with vivid images, and carried by credible messengers. Law and Order worked because it was repeated in speeches and headlines, illustrated with images of unrest and voiced by presidents. Black Lives Mattered gained traction because it paired repetition with unforgettable images. Hands up, marches, murals, and credible messengers within affected communities. Counterframing is just as important. Law and order invited justice and accountability. Security invited freedom. The battle of frames is never settled, it's ongoing. So how can we as citizens spot frames in the wild? Here's a simple checklist. What is being highlighted? What's ignored? Which values are appealed to? Who is blamed or credited? What solutions are implied? Who benefits? Apply this to any headline, press release, or campaign speech, and the hidden frame begins to reveal itself. And once you see it, you can question it. Frames shape not only how we see the world, but also what actions seem reasonable. If poverty is framed as the result of laziness, solutions focus on discipline. If it's framed as structural inequality, solutions focus on reform. Goffman helps us realize frames don't just interpret the world, they justify how power is distributed within it. Frames are inevitable. All communication highlights some facts and hides others. The ethical communicator makes their frame visible. The manipulative communicator hides it. With this framing toolkit, we're ready to step into history. Next episode, we turn to November 22nd, 1963, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. We'll explore how chaotic first reports hardened into narratives and how those frames shaped national memory. Thank you for joining me for this opening episode of Framed. If you found it valuable, please subscribe, share, and consider supporting us on Patreon. And remember, every story you encounter is framed. The real question is, who's holding the frame?